Hello everyone, and welcome to the Teaching and Learning in Performing Arts introductory course. For those of us who've not yet met, my name is Honor and this is my email address. So if you want to find me on the system, if you have any questions or if you want to have contact, please do so. Today I want to talk very briefly about deliberate practice and what it is and what it isn't. As you may already know, it is in the TLIPA's teaching and learning strategy, and that's why we thought it might be useful to explore it. The term originated in Anders Ericsson's paper in the Psychological Review journal in 1993. And the title of the paper was, I'll read it so as I don't get it wrong, The Role of Deliberate Practice in the Acquisition of Expert Performance. And the study focused primarily on violinists, so music instrumentalists. And it's related to motor skills, so it has since been explored in sports and other areas of physical performance, but also some other kinds of performance. And in fact, Ericsson's inspiration came from chess playing. So the studies are then were cited widely, and of course it's cited as the 10,000 hour rule, which suggests that if you practice anything for 10,000 hours, you should be an expert in it, which of course has been challenged since then, but more about that later. So the idea is basically that in any task that we do, we excel to a certain point and we plateau. And we're okay with that. So there are simple tasks that we don't have to be elite performers in, such as writing, reading, if they are functional, and that's fine. But to go beyond it, the paper was suggesting that we need to do a specific kind of practice. And the characteristics of deliberate practice are defined as such. The first one is the subject's motivation and the mental effort that's required to perform the task. Now, this is the first difference. The motivation needs to come from the person who's practicing, and it is internal. So, and amateurs in any field are okay with the plateau that I just talked about. And the people who are motivated, or sometimes they're referred to as having grit, are more likely to succeed with and in deliberate practice. And the Ericsson paper explicitly states that deliberate practice is not enjoyable. So the people who are wanting to do deliberate practice need to have an internal motivation for that. And in addition, the deliberate practice needs to take account the pre-existing knowledge of the person, and then it can be designed so that the initial task should be easily understood at the start. So they should already be able to do a certain element of it. And repeating what you know, what you already can do, is not enough. Then the designed task needs to push the person's abilities, and it needs to be designed to target a specific weakness that they might have. And then the subject doing the practice should receive immediate feedback. Now, ideally, this feedback needs to come from an expert eye, and it needs to be external, so that they can see what the practicee is doing. And however, this is not the only route. So the person who is practicing can see the results of their practice and have the knowledge of results. And they can tweak what they're doing accordingly. A simple example would be the ballet dancers using the mirror, for example. They can see what they're doing and they can adjust their practice accordingly. And although group practice is possible with an expert, again, ideally, deliberate practice happens one-to-one. So there's an expert or an outside eye, or the person is alone, and they can see the results of their performance, and they work on getting better results by tweaking their practice. And the subjects should repeatedly perform the same or similar tasks, but as I said, they need to those activities need to be targeted to overcome specific weaknesses, and the performance needs to be carefully monitored to provide cues to improve it. Of course, the theory has been opposed, and in 2016 a paper came out by Hamrick and his colleagues, and they looked at Ericsson's claims in sports field. Now, what they said was deliberate practice only accounted for 18% of the variance in performance, and that leaves a huge number to be accounted for. And in elite performance, deliberate practice only accounted for 1% of the variance. And of course, Ericsson came back and reviewed the paper in the same journal, and he brought the argument back to the quality of practice. So it's not just the number of hours that these sports performers are practicing. So just practicing is not enough. It needs to be a specific kind of practice, which is very arduous, it's very concentrated and highly targeted. So it's not something that you can do for an extended period of time. In fact, it is often, he refers to it as you can only do it for about 4 hours a day, and it needs to be broken up. So how does it work? How do we deliberately practice? So as neuroscience is advancing, we can see what's happening in the brain, and a recent study has claimed that what deliberate practice does is it strengthens the insulation of the neural pathway, and therefore making the information transfer more efficient between the brain and the body, hence improving the motor skills. So this kind of practice, in short, insulates the pathway so that there's no energy loss in the transition of the information from the brain to the muscles. How do we do it? So first of all, you need to have ultimate focus. So there can be no distractions. That means no mobile phone, no laptop, no nothing, no communication. It needs to be a very focused time. 2, with any task, you need to start slow. Even if it's wrong, it needs to start slow, and then you gradually speed up. And as you speed up, the motor skills start to get embedded. You need to take a break. Because it is so focused and because it sort of is very, very targeted, you can only sustain it for so long. And subjects often say that they break their practice up through the day, so they will have short bursts of practice throughout the day. And this is an additional one, but you can also mentally practice. So if you have the skill embedded, you can imagine that you're doing the task, the physical task, and that is just as good as practicing it for real. How much should we practice? Now, there is no magic number, and to a certain extent, Ericsson's paper is also saying that. Because it varies for the tasks, but elite performers of music or sport claim that they practice about 50 to 60 hours per week, but they can only do about 4 to 5 hours a day, and throughout the day they have to break it up. Of course, the other opposition to deliberate practice was nature versus nurture. So the discussion is ongoing, and we don't really know how it exactly works. But as neuroscience is advancing, it is hoped that there'll be more information on how physically it works. So what I've done is I've got a couple of links to these papers, and there's a short video from a TED Talk which I have referred to in this, and I hope you'll find useful as well. that's really it. If you have any questions, please ask me. But before I go, I'd like to leave you with a physical task. Hopefully you can do over today, and when we meet tomorrow, we can have a little go at how you went on practice. So the task is very, very simple. So do it with me if you like. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take one hand and make a fist, like so, and take the other hand and place it flat with the thumb closed, facing into the middle of your fist. And now when I say switch, and only when I say switch, you're going to switch this hand into a fist, and you're going to switch this hand to being flat. So let's have a go. And you need to do it as quick as possible, as quick as you can. Yeah? So 3, 2, 1. Okay, but I didn't say switch. So let's do that again. So here we go. 3, 2, switch. And switch. And switch. And switch. So what I'd like you to do is, if you can already do it, that's great. I've got a further challenge. But if you're unable to do it, then why don't you try a few minutes of very concentrated and very slow to see how you get on. So you could start with just one hand. You can go from a fist to an open hand and try the other hand alternately, and then try them together at the same time, and then gradually speed up. If you can already do it, try a double. So you can do 2 switches, or you can do 1, 2, 3 switches. See how you get on. Hope you've enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to seeing you tomorrow.